So I was using quinoderm twice a day, 1006 twice a day, and taking erythromycin daily. And not only had my skin not cleared up, but it was continuing to get worse. Welcome to the very first edition of the Adult Acne Podcast. I'm your host, Leigh Brandon. In this first episode, I want you to get to know me and my own acne journey. In brief, I suffered 18 years of hell, but there is a happy ending. After much searching, I found the solution to my own acne, and now with the vast amount of knowledge and experience I've gained helping myself and others, I now wish to share my knowledge with the world and help those who are suffering just as I was. It all started for me at the age of 13. I remember one Sunday evening sitting on the sofa between my parents, and my mother noticed that I had blackheads on my nose. "Oh, we'll need to squeeze those for you," she said. My parents, one on each side, then began squeezing and releasing the black fatty substance from within the blackheads. Once completed, my mother said, "There you go, all done now." I didn't realise at the time the significance of what had just happened. I remember thinking that acne was just part of the process of growing up and puberty, but I remember thinking, wow, now I'm becoming a man, and I felt quite excited by that thought. What I didn't realise was that I was at the start of a living hell that was to last for 18 long years. I do remember a good friend of mine at school started to get acne a few months before me, and he was using some skin products to help with his acne that he'd been given by his doctor. After a few months of having recurring blackheads, I also started getting whiteheads that were also quite red and inflamed. It seems that each week that passed, the number of acne lesions increased, and it soon became a very dire situation. My mother took me to see my local GP, and he told me not to worry and suggested I used an acne cream called quinoderm, which is made of potassium hydroxyquinoline sulfate and benzoyl peroxide, and a cleanser called 1006 made with salicylic acid. I was so relieved because my acne was now really bad, and I was extremely happy because now I could leave this awful acne behind and get on with my life once again. I was advised to use the quinoderm and the 1006 in the morning and before bed each day. I was totally regimented in my application of these products, and I was looking forward to the results. A few weeks went by and I didn't really notice any difference. Looking back, I definitely had a psychological attachment to these products because I believed that if I now stopped using them, my skin would get even worse, and I couldn't dare to think that my skin could get any worse. What I did notice was that my skin became quite red, sore, dry, and flaky with the use of the products. The 1006 in particular made my skin really dry, and my skin would rebound by being excessively oily, leading to even more breakouts. After a few months, I noticed that my friend's skin had cleared up, and he said that he was now using an antibiotic and that it had worked wonders. Hearing this, I spoke with my mother, and she took me back to the GP, who acknowledged that my skin had not improved with the use of quinoderm and 1006, although he failed to admit that it had got a lot worse. He was more than happy to prescribe me a course of the antibiotic erythromycin and told me that they would solve the problem. My mother asked the GP if my acne was due to anything that my mother was feeding me, and he said there was absolutely no relationship between food and acne. Now, that's a belief that the medical community still cling to today, and I'll talk much more about that in future episodes. So I started taking the antibiotics, and my skin did clear just like my friends did. However, I did notice that as my skin was clearing, my friend's skin began breaking out again. And it didn't take too many weeks before my clear skin began to break out again, and within a few short months was worse than it had ever been. So I was using quinoderm twice a day, 1006 twice a day, and taking erythromycin daily. And not only had my skin not cleared up, but it was continuing to get worse. Over the years, each time I went back to my doctor, I was given yet another antibiotic prescription and told to continue with the quinoderm and 1006 which weren't working. Anytime the subject of diet came up, my doctor assured me that there is no link between diet and acne. From time to time, I was given a different antibiotic to use, as that was the only thing that the doctor had in his toolbox to help me, despite the fact that the antibiotics were making my acne worse. The sad thing was for me that I still had 100% trust in my doctor, despite his awful track record at helping me with my acne. As I'm sure you know, anyone who has suffered from acne like you and me, might think, well, that's what happens to teenagers, so it's no big deal. Well, what I think many people do not realize and find difficult to fully empathize with is not just the physical aspects of acne, the itchiness, the redness, the pain, and how awful it looks, but how it makes you feel. My acne continued all through my 20s and into my 30s. I was teased all through school. In fact, my nickname was Zit at school. I went to a secondary school in North London in the middle of a council estate, so I couldn't really let on how badly the teasing affected me because, it was a rough school, but, at the end of the day, it was demoralizing. Then as an adult, I find that going for jobs or job promotions, looking for a new partner, or even when in relationships, things were extremely challenging. You yourself may have experienced the situation of going for a job interview, a job that you can do better than anyone else, and it's your dream job. You wake up in the morning with nervous excitement and anticipation of showing them what you can offer. Then you feel that dreaded feeling. You feel the intense itchiness all over your face, and you know what it is. You put your hand up to your face, and you feel the big, hot, itchy bumps. You slowly and nervously walk to the bathroom to look in the mirror to see what has arrived. When you look in the mirror, it's to find that you see your worst nightmare has appeared on your face and possibly your chest and your back as well, like it did for me. There were a few times in my 20s that I'm sure my skin cost me a new job or job promotion. It was costing me a lot of money due to the lost work opportunities on top of the cost of the Quinoderm, the 1006, and the antibiotics that I was buying every month, which weren't working and was making my skin worse and my overall health worse. Other situations I experienced included going for a night out with bumps on my forehead the size of golf balls and my face looking like a red version of Dr. Dot. Now, this wasn't exactly confidence building for attracting the ladies, I'm sure you could appreciate. Day after day, I would think, why me? I'm an adult now. This is a child's problem. Why is it happening to me? So I went through 18 years of not really wanting to show my face anywhere, at least on the bad days. And I remember thinking that if someone approached me and said they could guarantee that they could help me get rid of my acne for good, I would have been willing to remortgage my home. I was that desperate. Amir was a 42-year-old professional man suffering from acne. He was overweight, suffering from low confidence, and had very low energy levels when he first came to see me. He was also spending £400 per month on products to cover up his acne. His skin was very oily, his face and scalp were covered in acne, and he worried that it might start to affect his career. Upon testing his gut microbiome, it was discovered that he did have a minor imbalance of gut microbes, including Staphylococcus aureus, which is often linked to skin conditions. He had hormone imbalances which would have affected his energy levels and a number of food sensitivities that may have also caused his acne. He was a slow starter in terms of changing his diet and lifestyle, and his progress was initially slow to non-existent. Amir was also given supplementation to help rebalance his gut microbiome and his hormones. A few months into the program, we had a little heart-to-heart, and I made it clear to him that unless he fully committed to the program, he simply wasn't going to be successful. I half expected Amir to throw the towel in at that point, but to my surprise, it was just the kick up the backside that he needed. He knuckled down and he started eating right for his metabolic type, finally started eliminating sugar from his diet with a lot of perseverance, and within a few weeks, his skin improved to the point where he had clear skin for the first time in 30 years. If you would like to achieve the same kind of result as Amir, you can now follow a comprehensive step-by-step guide in my book, Eliminating Adult Acne for Good, available now from all major online bookstores and via my website at www.bodycheck.co.uk/books. I remember thinking at the time that I would have paid £25,000, that's around 30,000 US dollars, to anyone who could guarantee that they could help me get rid of my acne. Now that was in the mid 1990s, so I guess that figure would be worth probably double these days. That's how desperate I was. Then in the year 2000, I found out about food intolerances and metabolic typing from Paul Chek, the founder of the Chek Institute, during a lecture at Loughborough University in England. Chek described how food affects your hormones, how your hormones affect your skin, and how food sensitivities can lead to skin problems such as acne. This really caught my attention, especially as he was contradicting what my doctor had been telling me for the last 18 years. I left that lecture hall with the same level of optimism I had when I first visited my doctor and left with the Quinoderm and Tenosix. Only this time, my optimism would bear fruit. So the following week, I went to see a Chinese doctor locally, and he tested me for food intolerances. He gave me a list of foods to avoid, which included wheat, dairy, garden peas, peppers of all types, including black pepper. And he also told me I had a candida overgrowth, which is a common type of fungal infection. And he advised me to follow an antifungal diet. I was also advised to stop using the antibiotics that my doctor had been prescribing for 18 years. So I went home and took everything from my kitchen cupboards that I no longer could eat, and I put them straight in the bin. I then went to the local supermarket and restocked with all the things that I could eat whilst following the plan that I was given. Luckily for me, I am someone that does things 100% or not at all, so I followed the plan to the letter. I began following the plan immediately and found the switch in diet reasonably easy to accomplish. On an antifungal diet, you don't eat anything sugary, and as someone who doesn't have a sweet tooth, that was easy enough for me to do. Looking back, it's no surprise that I had a fungal overgrowth because I had been given antibiotics for so long. It would have destroyed most, if not all, of the commensal or good bacteria living in my intestinal tract. These bacteria also crowd out or prevent too many of the so-called bad microbes, such as candida, from overgrowing, which is when they become a problem. Fungus release a toxin called mycotoxin that can wreak havoc on our health and on our skin. And I'll talk much more about this subject in a future episode. After 2 weeks on the food elimination and antifungal protocol, my skin cleared up. My skin is 99.999% clear these days, and I never have to think about or worry about how my skin is going to look. My skin is now the best it's been since before I was a teenager, and it's a real weight off my shoulders because I can live life to the fullest without having to restrict myself in any way. But my journey didn't stop here. I was determined to maximize my health. I had to regain the balance of microbes in my gut destroyed by the antibiotics. And I also knew I had a buildup of toxins in my body from the years of abuse of antibiotics, the toxins from the pathogenic microbes. I also had 5 mercury amalgam fillings and 1 mercury amalgam root canal filled tooth, which almost certainly poisoning me too. What I'd come to learn was that acne was a warning sign, and I'll talk much more about this also in future episodes. A warning sign that there was something wrong internally, and acne is a way that our subconscious mind makes our conscious mind aware of it. So I know my acne was informing me I needed to clean up my insides. I often say that acne is an inside job, meaning it's not in most cases an issue with the skin per se, but a problem on the inside of the body showing itself on the skin. Luckily for me, working in health and wellness, I had the fortune to choose some of the absolute bests in their fields to learn from. So I studied nutrition, metabolic typing, holistic lifestyle coaching, and functional medicine, which gave me the knowledge I needed to fully heal myself from the inside out, as well as the ability to help others. Over a period of 2 years, I carefully and safely, following specific protocols, had my mercury amalgam dental fillings replaced with composite or porcelain fillings by a biological dentist trained in toxicology. Then I saved over a few years to have my mercury amalgam filled root canal tooth extracted and replaced with a zirconia implant. Since then, I've performed heavy metal detoxes, yearly cleanses of several varieties, regular skin cleanses, as well as eating a fully organic diet that's right for my metabolic type. I also use 2 different water filters for my home, as well as spending at least 2 hours a week in my infrared sauna to help detoxify. I will be discussing all these in more detail in future episodes, and I also discuss them in my book, Eliminating Adult Acne for Good, as well as in my Eliminate Adult Acne coaching program. A few years after healing from acne, I started taking on clients in my practice to help them overcome their acne. And fortunately, from my own personal experience and from my professional studies, I was able to help people, even those with really bad acne, achieve clear skin consistently, as long as they followed my advice, of course. My professional experience has shown me that the causes of acne vary from person to person, and it's essential that each individual find out what the causes of their acne is. I like to use laboratory testing to help me cut down the time it takes to establish the causes, but it can also be achieved in a step-by-step process, which just takes a little more time. What really saddens me is when I see acne sufferers asking on social media groups what product they should take, whether it be a pharmaceutical or a topical product. My experience has shown me, as I said before, that acne is nearly always an inside job, and most of the important work needs to be internally and not on the skin. That's not to say there aren't some do's and don'ts for what you put on your skin, but the skin itself is the least important aspect to address from my experience. I will also in the future do an episode discussing the pharmaceuticals often prescribed for acne, including their benefits, their side effects, and the corruption around pharmaceutical products. Before I go, I want to ask you to please send me your acne questions, and I will do my best to answer them in future episodes. All details of how you can contact me via social media are included in the show notes. Well, that's all for today's episode. Don't forget to send me in your questions, and make sure to join me next time for more great information on how to eliminate your adult acne on the Adult Acne Podcast. And don't forget, make sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.